Good morning. Welcome to day 39 of Project Dig. Thank you for joining. I hope you're having a good day so far. Project Dig is a 2D multiplayer automation survival sandbox game that I am developing in a new C++ game engine entirely here on Twitch, and all the VODs are being uploaded to YouTube. We've been working on UI for like the last week or so, maybe a little bit more than a week. And we're getting close to being done. Like, I think I'm at just about at the point where I'm ready to like wrap it up. Even if there's stuff that we need to come back to in the future, it's pretty solid, and most of the stuff that we're going to be doing with the UI in the future would be more game specific. So we kind of like need to wait and see how that's going to play out. So you can show off what we have so far with the UI. Here we are. So we got this window that oh, that's right, I broke that. I don't know what happened there. I think I know what happened. And yeah, so we have, what is happening there? I don't know what happened there. That broke. So I guess we know what we're working on today. Anyways, we have an edit label. We can type in stuff, and it will even overflow. We have a button. We have this little stat bar thing that will be used for a lot of things. Like, I don't think the game's going to have experience, but it will have like power bars and whatnot. And so this, whenever it's actually working, it shows like a meter. No, you can have it move. The window is fully like resizable. We have sections working, icons, animated icons or images. Also got paragraphs working, which is text wrapping. So yeah, we have like pretty much everything down. So I think we're just going to today be kind of wrapping that up. Trying to fix this issue and whatever else we have. Let me go. Oh, so I committed everything. I wonder if I must have broke it in like, no, it's not there. At what point did I break this? That is the question. Got some coffee today. I broke my like 1 week coffee fast. Coffee. Right. Oh, I don't think that's it. I do not know at what point this broke, or even what's happening with it. Let's go back to this point and see if it's broken. We'll figure out what happened with it. So yeah, what is left? Well, that's building. So we can look at what Crea had. Okay, so that's one thing that I didn't do. is that we are not rendering the UI to a render texture. We're just doing draw and then draw immediate. So that's something that we could possibly do, is like trying to, cache all of the draw. Another possibility, I don't know exactly how this differs, but there are different types of vertex buffers. There's this, I think it's called static, dynamic, and transient are the three. And that's going from static is like it never changes, dynamic is it occasionally changes, and then transient is that it's changing pretty much every frame. And right now we're only drawing with transient, which is technically not actually what we would want to be doing. Like, yeah. Okay, so that's working. And there you can see our multi-line. Okay, so that works. Let's move up one. This is probably where it broke. I'm almost wondering if I did something to like the window image itself. This is almost certainly where it broke. I don't know exactly how though. Okay, we'll just reload. Tell it to go again. So yeah, that's one thing we could do, is like figure out how to properly handle that. I think rendering to a texture would be the best solution, so maybe we could look into that today. That's something I have not done. Yes, we did not do a scroll list either. I completely forgot about that. So we could do a scroll list. Yeah, that's something. Yeah, I forgot about that. One thing I should do with the scroll list is also add in a proper scroll bar. That's something I never did. Which basically, like, it will. The scroll side thing will change depending on like the sidebar. We'll adjust its size depending on the content. So the more the content, the smaller it is. Yeah, so it broke here. Hey Serenity, what's up? It's good. I've been good. Coming off of kind of like a lighter week. My friend was visiting. Gamer for Life with the Twitch Prime sub. Welcome to the Siege. Hey, thank you for the support. I appreciate it. Welcome. Okay, so let's try to figure out what's going on here first. This is step number 1. And then we'll figure out what we're going to work on. So it's something in here. So one thing we could do is, while we are here, we could reverse some of this. But I mean, it's pretty obvious what, like, this isn't breaking it, this is not breaking it, that's not breaking it, that's not breaking it, that's not breaking it. Label, label, label. I don't see how that could be breaking it. This is like the biggest thing I see breaking it is right here. That or this in here. Like maybe there's something with the scroll bar that, or not the scroll bar, sorry, the stat bar, where it's like using one of these and it gets changed. Like the background data. Yeah, maybe that is it. There's data, handle data, header data, subheader data, content header. Okay, so what we could do, just to test that out, we could just, actually what we could do is, I think, reverse that entire thing. And then let's run it. I had to turn off 7.1 surround sound. That sucks. Hey, that is the fix. Well, glad you got it fixed. Okay, so there's something wrong with this here. Wait. Looks like it only changed one line. This edit label? Size. This must be it. Okay, so let's actually go up to yeah, so now we're on, here we go. So there's edit label, default 00, and then there's also this edit label. So we'll see if it's that. Seems you missed a lot of progress. We have been working, although I did miss yesterday. Gasp. The first day I've missed a projectDIG. I almost got 40 days in. Yeah. I wasn't feeling that great yesterday. And my friend was leaving, and then I woke up early, and my friend was leaving, so we went out to breakfast, and yeah, I came home and I crashed for like 3 hours. Okay, so now this is just like not working. Unexpected. Is it really just because it can't find this? What's this edit label 46? Edit. Oh yeah, it wouldn't be here, duh. I removed it. That's the text offset. That should be fine. This should be fine too. This should just default to size of 00. I don't know exactly what that would lead to. I guess it just doesn't work. It looks like it gets stuck in like an infinite loop or something. Okay, let's just disable the edit label so that way it can proceed. We don't need that right now. So we're just trying to figure out what broke this bar. Yeah, so that seems to be it, because now if I re-enable the bar and this, it breaks, right? But why would it be getting this edit label for our bar, the experience? Yeah, that screws it up. That's so weird. Okay. Something seems to be wrong here. It might be a little bit more fundamental. Let's jump to our bar. So let's see here. Where's the size being set at? We don't even have a size in here. Nani? That's so weird. What? Um. Okay, let's just actually try debugging it the more like common way. Let's see what the values are being set to whenever we do this. So we have percentage. Percentage is not a number. Oh, wait, what? Why would the percentage become not a number here? I wonder if this is like too much. What if we do this? We put it into a scope so that way the styles goes out of scope. I don't know if this is the actual problem, but that's like the only thing I can think of right now. Yeah, that's what it seemed like was happening. I think. Maybe. No. No. Why is it doing that though? So basically, I don't get why this is happening, but the percentage is becoming not a number. Is the percentage variable you are capturing in the lambda on the stack? Yes. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like maybe the stack. I mean, if the stack was overflowing, though, it should be like saying stack overflow. I thought maybe it was just being nice to me or something. I mean, like I typically don't. I am like I don't think that would be happening, but yeah, the percentage is on the stack that we're capturing here, and we're capturing it by reference. So what's happening is that this is going out of scope, and it just like I'm not being able to keep it anymore. I guess it looks like it just gets freed up. So it looks like, yeah, I mean, this isn't so. Fortunately, what it looks like in the end is that this doesn't really matter. That value will be invalid as soon as the function returns and another is called. But why is it that if I don't have the edit label, it's fine? I don't get that. But yeah, okay. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and yeah, that makes sense. I was honestly a little surprised whenever it first worked. But, yeah, for now, we'll just do percentage here. I mean, do I need to even be capturing it at this point? I guess so, because will this even work? Just working by chance, yeah. I see. So basically, I'm doing this wrong. It's like, really, if I wanted to do this right, what I'd need to do is have another function in here. um, handle that takes the element, pointer element, and then all of this I would need to just, have in here. Cool UI manager. Like, I just can't use a lambda for something like that. Capture this. Oh, and it would work then? Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, if you can't tell, I'm like super new to lambdas. This was, I think, like the second lambda I ever wrote. Or third, something like that. So I can capture this. So then, isn't bar... Oh, I don't need to capture bar. Oh, yes, I do. But bar is a pointer, which is why it will be okay. Because bar is not being created on the stack, it's on the heap. And so it's not becoming, it's not being popped whenever we exit the function. I see. So if you capture this, then it allows it to do that. Ah, I see. Thank you, Mooballs. Okay. Hey, looks like we fixed it. Okay, thanks. Tuck, tuck. Oh yeah, so we could just discard that entire thing. Okay. Sweet. Good stuff. All right, so I guess we could. So there's oops, that's not it. There's a few things left to work on for the UI. Here we can do. I think the two big ones is scroll list, and then the texture. Saving it to the texture. I think I kind of want to do the scroll list. That is very useful. Almost, it's pretty much necessary. I don't know what the UI is going to look like for Crea, but like we are definitely going to be having content that needs to be scrolled. Like, if we have a list of items, that will need to be scrolled. Probably like researching or something like that. I'm almost certain we'll need it with the UI. Yeah, I don't know. One thing I think I'd like to do is make it so that in the future the scroll list has a scroll bar on the side. For now, we could not do that. And we'll just copy over the scroll bar. Our scroll list. So let's do that today. And we'll see how long that takes. So today, yeah, we'll be working on that. I might have to stop. Well, I'm going to stop a little early. I don't know exactly how early. And I'll put a reminder out there again, at least once or twice more during the stream. But I'll be stopping probably around noon, give or take half an hour. And scroll list. I'm wondering if I want to call it the scroll list or if I want to call it something else. Should I just call it a list? Maybe I'll just call it a list. It's kind of like a list view almost. Scroll list. Scroll list is okay. I'll make it scroll list. So yeah, I'll be taking off a little early, and then I'm also going to be gone this weekend. It's my wife's birthday, and we are going to be out of town. I also realize it's Memorial Day weekend, right? So this is source CGUI, seems good. We'll just get those two in. Hey, project 2051. Why are you doing this on such a low level? Isn't there any existing UI systems to use? Yes, there are. I am GUI or MGUI, whatever, however it's pronounced. It seems to be a great solution. The reason I am doing this is because we are pulling over a UI system that I wrote like 2 years ago for Crea, and I am now trying to just port that over to this new game engine. So here is the scroll list for Crea and the scroll list header. And so I just want to grab these, pull them over. The reason that, so yeah, like basically, yes, there are existing solutions, but I am familiar with this solution. I know how it works. I have complete control over it. I can do whatever I want. So it has a lot of advantages over using some new to me solution that I have to like figure out. And I used like probably three existing solutions for Crea before I wrote my own UI solution, and they were all like tons of waste of time. Like so much wasted time. I spent months and months and months, probably like seriously like 6 to 12 months just messing with UI stuff, trying to get it to work right. There's tons of performance issues with it because I was using like Awesemium, and then I went over to I'm forgetting what the other one's called. Awesemium Coherent UI was the other solution I was using, and they're built with HTML and JavaScript, So I was trying to do that, and so I actually had to learn HTML and JavaScript because, like, yeah, it's a long story. Basically, friend was going to help who is a web dev. He didn't help. I had the technology set up, so I had to learn that tech. And then once it got working and once I started adding in a lot of UI elements, I realized that there's a lot of performance issues with it. And so then I had to like try to solve that issue, and I never could. And so then I ended up like eventually, you know, after 5 years or something, writing my own UI solution, which is what we are porting over. And so it's just like I wasted so much time with other UI solutions. I'm like, I'm just gonna do my own. I know how to do it. I can make it work. I can, well, whenever I wrote it, I, you know, wrote exactly what I needed. So I didn't have like a ton of bells and whistles. I just had exactly what I needed, which was very nice. And yeah. Also, this is a good way, like, as I've been porting it over, I've been going over it line by line what we are changing and talking about that, like how it's working. And I think it's been a good like educational series. Hopefully. List. Okay, so we are now doing an element ID for the IDs, not a name, so it's actually hashed. And that's how we compare them. Here we're going to be adding raw pointers. I think there's already an add, right? Element group, I believe that has an add. Yes, so this is overriding it. Set count. So we just need to go through this and make sure that things are set up correctly. So we're just, yeah, doing the header right now. Go ahead and do a find replace for this. This is the uint32t. Replace. Bam. If anyone has any questions, you're more than welcome to ask. Let's do the same with the int32. Hey, Steve Ward, how's it going? Okay. So again, scroll list is basically like I tried to make it as smart as possible. What it does is it will keep track of a list of elements that it needs to be displaying, and or like that it can be used to display. So it's kind of like we have this pool of elements. Let's say that you can display like 8 elements at one time. So it will actually like have 8 different elements that you can that are created for it. And sorry, I was just thinking about something. Yeah, so we'll have 8 different elements that represent the different like entries in the list. And then as you scroll, it takes the data, like it has some callbacks. Where are they at? Here it is, unpopulate element and on index change. And so those are called whenever you're like scrolling, and it'll be like, oh hey, you need to be populating. And I want to see if I can come up with a better solution for this now that I've used it a lot. But it's it like knows where you are at in the list. So like let's say you're 5 elements down and you're looking at the second element in the list. So that's 5 plus like 1 since you're going down 1, so it's 6. So that means that you're looking at the 6th item in the list. And so then it gives you that index where it's like, hey, this is index 6. Like, so if you have a list of items, use item 6 to populate this element. And that then you can like actually, go through and say like, okay, well, let's say that the element, label name is this item's name, and the icon of child with like typically the elements in a list is a group of elements. So it'd be like a section list that contains an icon and a name and maybe like a short description, or I don't know, something like that. Maybe some buttons off to the side that you can click for like crafting. And so populate that given whatever the index is for that element. But I think I like made it so that you had to do a little bit more work. What I was thinking about doing is element list. Maybe this, like kind of merging it a little bit more so that way the scroll list itself takes care of more of the work. So that way, like there's on the front end, whenever you're like setting all this stuff up, there's a lot of like, oh, figure out what the correct index is. Hey, we have this index. Let's get what this actually belongs to or whatever. And if that's possible to avoid it, that would be great. I actually don't know how possible it is. We can look at that. So set count, that's just saying how many elements it can have, I believe. Changed is if the count is changed, I guess. Scroll to the top is pretty obvious. Scroll to bottom. Scroll is like moving down or up some amount, and then scroll to, you can say, hey, scroll to the 4th item in the list or something like that. Can scroll down, can scroll up. That's just used to show the little like arrows, so you can, if you can actually go in a certain direction. Get size. I think that's the size of the entire element. Get top item index. Get bottom item index. Item changed. That's if like it needs to be repopulated, I think. Is displayed. That just checks to see if an item is actually currently in view. Get the item element. Get item index. Page size. Oh, that's how many elements are being displayed at once. I thought that was set count, but maybe not. Maybe set count and page size does point to the same thing. I'll have to look at that. Can select index. I don't remember what that does. Get screen position, get cursor at anchor, and then these are all for the controller support, which is yet another thing I will need to end up fixing at some point. I think this is a pixel vector now. Oops. I think most of these are needing to be overridden. That one, I don't think so. I don't think... Oh, whoops, I don't want to go to that. Oh, there's a page size. Yeah. That's one thing I don't really like about this, is that we have some things in here that are like only used by like one thing. Makes me a little uncomfortable. Get top index, item changed, get size. Okay, so that's not a thing. Get area. Okay, cool. We'll have to look up what these are supposed to be doing. Till scroll timer selected index. Oh yeah, that's right. I was kind of wanting to, so what I did before, and I think this worked pretty well, is to actually just go in here, select everything, and then dump it in here, and then rename stuff. Utility, what's So then we can go in here and say, let's rename this. Let's rename this. Selected index. And the scroll index. And the list index. The scroll amount. Scroll speed. Populate element. It's on populate element. On index changed. Okay, that looks pretty good. Excellent. Let's now include our utility timer. No, I did not have that in there. Oh, we need to actually put this up in here, huh? That's one thing that sucks about having the event be a template. So our populate element takes the element and the index for now. So it's an element pointer and I is a UN32. And then what was the other one? Not scroll timer. Index changed is just the scroll index, which is a scroll index in 32. So this is, whoops, a UN32T. Oh wait, an element pointer and a UN32T. So those are the parameters that get passed in. This is N32T for the event. I don't think timer's in another, yeah, it's not in another namespace. Okay, so that looks good. Index of the topmost element inside of the list, index of the topmost item. How many items are in the list in total? Yeah, so one thing I think I want to do is actually, I don't know exactly how. This would be pretty sexy, I think, is to be able to have a list or have the list that corresponds to the scroll list live inside of here. So that way we don't even have to deal with that interface. This is like, hey, this is the item, and this would have been really easy with Python. And maybe we could do this with like any list or something like that. Or maybe we can make scroll list be templated and that's whatever it's containing. That could work. I could see that working. And then the scroll list contains a list of type T, and those are
not the elements that live within the list, but the items of whatever it is. Like, we might have actual items, like game items, or maybe we have a list of like technologies that you could look at. And so, that'd be pretty basic, but it would just be something that, like, whenever we say, hey, this was like, right now, what we do with this onPopulate element, we say, here's the element and here's the index that you need to be populating, um, or the index of the item in the list. And so you have to like do this lookup, and I can show you what that looks like. I do it in lots of places. Let's see here. There's just say craft UI. Unpopulate element. Here we go. Populate item. So here's the element and the index. And so we say, okay, here's our list of craftables. Now we have to get our craft data. So it's not that big of a deal, like just doing that lookup. But we could have easily had craft data be passed into here and not have to look this up. And then there's other places, if we look around, where we have to do stuff with that. Like here, and so that's one thing that kind of sucks, is that then it might be living in two places, which might, yeah, be kind of annoying to do. But like here we have to like tell it that it changed that list. But if the list was being managed and maintained within the UI or something like that, then it could like possibly just automatically know that the list changed. Yeah, and there's some other places. Register index. I don't remember what that does. Oh yeah, that's right. That's for the controller support. Oh yeah, here we go. Here's like one example where it's like finish update items, where I have to iterate through the index of the top item index and the bottom item index and get the index for that. And so this is kind of weird. Like basically what I'm saying is like, hey, I want to go through all of the items that are currently visible, and that's what you have to do, which is really like weird. And then if I want to get the element that corresponds to that item, I have to also do this. And so it'd be kind of nice. And maybe I can come up with a better interface without having to put the list inside of the item list. The list of like actual data that we're scrolling through. But it'd be nice to be able to just nicely be able to say like, hey, give me the element and the item that corresponds to this thing. I don't know exactly how that would work. Maybe even what it is that the item doesn't get stored inside of the list, but instead we pass it in anytime we're wanting to do some operation on it, and the scroll list figures out, like it uses that. It's like, okay, this is the list that I'm iterating over or scrolling through. Let's pick out the proper element, and maybe only that function could be templated. And then also, like in this case, I could say, instead of doing all of this, we could just have a for element and craft data in self.item list. We could say like visible items or something like that. And so it iterates through all of the visible items, or maybe displayed items, I don't know. All of the displayed items, giving us the element and the craft data. That could be nice. But yeah, well, I think this kind of depends on as we get further into the development and we're actually starting to write the UI and know exactly how we're wanting to use it. At the moment, that's still a little up in the air because we don't know if we're like using Lua or what. Hey, Jeremy, 7 months in a row. Welcome back to the siege. Thank you for the support, man. 7 months. They just keep coming. Hey, Natsu. How are you guys doing today? Okay, so let's just keep going. Now that I kind of talked about that some, we can start going through all of this and trying to clean it up, huh? Element group, item size, padding, that should be fine. Oh, I need to change the namespace here. So this is just initializing it. What we could do with these, let's see here. We have the list index, the scroll index, and the count. These can all be initialized in here now. Pretty nice. So that means that we can get rid of that. Hey Sullivan, how's it going? Back at work doing exports? That's too bad. Well, it's a Friday at least, right? I'm doing good, doing good. Feeling good today. Making some progress. Had a good week visiting with my friend. It's always a great time to hang out with him. Oh, I should probably have updated. Yeah, so we finished up the edit label. We are now working on scroll list. Yeah, I kind of forgot to update Nightbot. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, here, let me talk about some of this really quick. So setup attributes, what that does is it's just saying, hey, we need, and I actually need to fix that. I should just do that all at once, huh? Whoops, I do not want to do that. Let's do this. There we go. So, setup attributes, this is telling this element attribute saying, hey, go look up in our spreadsheet, our spreadsheet, right? What happened here? Oh, that. In our style sheet, there we go. Our style sheet. What are these attributes? Like, what is the scroll speed supposed to be set at given the different states? What's the scroll amount supposed to be set at given the different information? Style sheet. And then, so that sets them up. And then this is where it gets updated. So whenever our state changes, this gets called. So like, let's say that you hover over it or whatever. It might, like, typically these aren't going to be changing, but we still check to see if they change. Add. All that does is it calls the element group add. And then this also pushes it onto this own list of elements. I don't know why we have to do that exactly. Element list. I should look at that because don't we have... Yeah, I should look at that. I don't know if we need that. Because doesn't this have a list? Element list, elements. Yeah, why can't we just use elements? Why do I have to use list? It might be because I moved list around. We'll see. Yeah, it might be we do other things with list. I don't know. We might be able to change that. It's something that I could play around with. Okay, so anyways, that's where we're adding the element. Then we set the count. That's how many elements, if we go to count, that's how many elements or items are in the list total. So we might have like 7 elements, but we would have 30 items. So the count would be 30. Excuse me. Whenever we have it changed, this is the new count. Need resize. What it does is it checks to see if the count did indeed change. And it looks like if the count is less than the previous size, oh, sorry. This is if the current count or the previous count are less than the size of the list, then we need to resize it, yeah. Set count, set the count there. Then we iterate over this. This should probably be a size T. We get our list index plus I divided by the size. List index probably should be a size T, right? We'll see. And then if I is less than the count, then we say that that element is being shown. Oh, that's right. We scroll back up to the top, I believe, whenever it gets changed. So yeah, that way, yeah. I is less than count. I wonder if I should split this up into 2 functions. I feel like that would probably be better, huh? Like, this is something I'd like to, even though this isn't used commonly, I feel like this is kind of bad code, to be honest. Off topic, dude. Squeegee just smashed the Millennium Falcon's record in the. Nice. Awesome to hear, Chronoloma. Siege victory. That's great to hear, man. We'll celebrate tonight with burritos. How's it going, Jikamis? What's up? I started working at an internship this week, so I haven't been able to watch as much. Sounds good, Matt. Thanks. But I'm going to look at work today. Hey, congrats, Jakamis, on your internship. That's awesome. At some point, I'd like to hear about it. Okay, so the reason that this is sucky is that what we're doing here is we're iterating over it, and we have this huge if statement, which we really should be able to just break out. And just say like for size t, I is equal to 0, and then what we really should be doing is we don't know exactly how big this is. And so what we can do is really it's like if count is greater than the list, then we need to have two functions here, right? Trying to think what would be the best way to go about doing that. I think it's just doing this, which is to do like size t I already have count. Maybe I'll just I'll call it size. I'm not sure what I should call this. But anyways, it should be getting the minimum value between the list size and the count, right? This count is the new value. We could also call it m_count. So that's count and sorry, the list size. And then we want to iterate through that, increment it, and so this is, we know that these are all visible. They're less than the count size, right? Less than count. I is less than count. Wait, let me double check that. I is less than count. I is less than count. Wait, is that even right? Hold up, hold up. Oh, I see. Gotcha. Yeah, I think that this is still okay. So what this does is just says like, hey, if this is, and I wonder if I could like, yeah, I don't know. I don't honestly know if this is worth it because the list typically is only going to be like 7 large, where if this was like 50, maybe it would be better. Like this would be better to change. I'm actually starting to doubt myself here. But anyways, the other, and then what we would want to do here is say size t, I is equal to size, and I is less than the list size. And what that does is just, basically it's like, hey, if the count is smaller than the list size, then that means that we're actually going to do something here, otherwise we wouldn't. And all we need to do here is hide it, because this is no longer visible. So what this is, what's happening here is basically like, you know, maybe we can show 8 items at one time, but we set the count to 4. And so that means we want to have the first 4 being displayed, we're showing them, and then the second 4 where we want to hide them. Oh, you can do plus plus I instead of I plus plus. That is different for me. Yeah, it's actually better, the pre-increment instead of post-increment. Honestly, the compiler probably makes it so that it's the same, but technically plus plus I is, or the pre-increment is faster. So I believe this should work instead of doing this. It's about the same amount of code, but so the nice thing about this is it takes the conditional logic outside. It just, it has the min value, which is technically a conditional. Like, I'm pretty sure that does some like tuple. I mean, not tuple. Ternary. Okay. Okay, so then what we do here is we set the scroll index to 0. We're just saying, hey, scroll back to the top. On index change, we say that it changed to the scroll index. If it needed to be resized, then we resize it. And then we set the scroll index x and y to 0. You're interning at with Adobe this summer in Seattle. Nice, cool, excellent. I don't know if they've gone on sale yet, JCumus. And I don't know if you're going to be going back to school at this point, but PAX West happens end of August. So if you're going to be around in Seattle, you should definitely try to snag some tickets for that. It's a pretty cool event. I wish I could justify going, but I definitely cannot for reasons that I have not yet announced. I thought the difference was that I++ returns the value, then increments, where ++I increments, then returns the new value. Yes, that is the difference. And so it does matter if you're actually using it, like, if you're passing it in somewhere. A pre-increment versus post-increment. I was trying to find assembly. Wow, I can't spell assembly right at all. Don't mind me. It looks like it's the same. Really? That's not what my understanding was. Anyways, I thought that it had to like do an extra like something. I thought that the compiler, the assembly that was generated did more work, but it probably does in some cases, or it would matter maybe, but in that case even, I don't know. Maybe I'm just wrong. I think the instruction when you don't save the result value is the same. Yeah, maybe that's it. But yeah, I think it does like an extra like retrieval of the value if you do post increment. But I think the compiler kind of just like removes that, really. It probably doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, I think like any type of optimization is going to remove that, so it doesn't matter. I'm not going back to school. I graduated. Nice. Congrats, Jacumis. That's awesome. Hey guys, let's say congrats to Jacumis for graduating. That is awesome. Probably going back and get my PhD while working. Cool, cool. Okay, let's move on from that function. Scroll to top. This goes to... So what that says is like, hey, let's scroll negative amount of our scroll index. So if we scroll down 5, let's just scroll negative 5 up. Scroll to bottom. This scrolls to the count. I don't know why I don't say scroll to 0. I don't know why that's not a thing. Index, so scroll. What does that do? So scroll, this is what scrolls to a certain index or a certain amount. Like, so it can be positive or negative number, and then it moves up or down. So what this is trying to figure out is what index are we now at? And if it didn't change, we don't do anything. So this is the minimum value between 0. Oh, sorry, the maximum value of 0 and the minimum value of the scroll index plus amount and the count minus the list size. Count minus the list size. Scroll index plus the amount. So that's typically what we're going for. I actually don't get this count minus the list size. So count might be like 30 and list size would be like 8, however many items we're displaying. So it would mean that, oh, I see. So that's the maximum amount. Because if we're already displaying 8 and we're at the top, then the furthest we can go down is at the bottom. So, well, at the bottom, the very last item, so like if we have 30, like 29 would be the last entry, but then the top one would be, because the index that we're scrolling to is always referring to the topmost item in the list, and so we have to subtract the list size from it to go up. So it'd be like 21 or something. And so then the amount, so that calculates the index, and then we actually now figure out the true amount that we scrolled, which is the index, the new index, minus the scrolled index. We figure out the absolute amount here. So I guess we use down there as well. And we say, hey, if that is bigger than the entire list, so every element in our list changed, and we say that here, we have scrolled at least an entire page, so we need to reset all elements. No need to be smart about it. And so, yeah, we just iterate through this. I should make this be a size T. This retrieves the element at that given location. I wonder if I really should make this be like a function or something. Because I do that a lot. Like, I should be able to just pass in I and it would give me the element. Yeah. Might do that. Okay. So that's whenever we scroll an entire page. Here we have scrolled less than a page, so let's shift the items around so we only update the minimum number of elements. Okay, that's where we are smart about it. And so basically what we're doing here, I can draw a little diagram to show this. Oh wait, I want a new page. So let's get this nice little gray color here. Basically, we have a list of items. We don't need to go all the way. I'll just be fast about it. You know, let's say that those are our items. And I want to be, bam, clean up afterwards. So let's say that we scrolled down. So this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then let's say that we have some more items over here, 10, 11. That's good. So you don't see those items. 10 and 11 aren't visible. So let's say that you scroll down one. So all the items should move up. So then this would become, you know, if we scroll down, then maybe I'll do it like this. So scrolling down, this becomes 2 and 3 and so on, and then this would become 10. And 1 is up here and 11 is down here, right? So you'll notice that we still have all of these items are the same. So the only one that is different is that we removed 1 and we added 10, right? And programmer starting to count at 1. Too much Lua. Nah. So instead of having to like redraw all of these, what we can do is be smart about it and actually just move these items, the elements up. So that way it's like, hey, let's take 1, the thing that's changing. So this little entry here, and let's move it down here. And then we just update that element. And so basically, yeah, like what it ends up looking like is we take all of these and we shift them up 1. And then we take this and we move it down here. And if, let's say we scrolled like 3, then it would just, you know, be 3, like we'd start here instead of there, and we would have these items that we'd be moving down to the bottom. And so that's what we are doing here. So we have the new top index, which is the index list, or sorry, the list index plus the amount plus the size mod the size. Yeah, this is kind of complicated, but it figures out the top index. We say, hey, if the index actually changed, the top index changed, Which it really should. I don't know under what circumstances it wouldn't change. First, hook up the new top element to not have a relative element anymore. Yeah, so we're actually having to move things around here because oh yeah, that's right. If the top item changed and we're moving it down, I believe that means that it doesn't have a relative element. All of these still do, but the top one doesn't because it's going to the bottom. You're doing pagination and not scrolling. I mean, you're splitting hairs now. Yes, technically that is true. True scrolling would be that we render all of it to a screen and then you can actually like get halfway in between, but we don't really want to be doing that. Yes. Scrolling is just hiding overflow, right? Yeah, and with scrolling you can... Yeah, sure. I called it a scroll list because there's a scroll bar basically on the side. So we're having to pull out a bunch of stuff. Unfortunately, what I need to do here, which is kind of lame, is make this be a friend list, a friend class, scroll list. So that way we can actually get access to all of these. Where's this new top define? There it is. Oops. So what we're doing here is we're kind of just swapping the information between these two. So we're like, okay, here's the new top. It needs to be properly set up. And then the previous top now needs to be at the bottom, and so its relative element is the like second to last item or whatever, or the what was previously the last item. So we're kind of just like, oh, like originally this was like 1, or I should say 2 was a relative element to 1, but now we need to make it so that 1 is a relative element to 9. And so that's what we're doing here. Don't know what this is complaining about. List offset start index. Okay, let's take a look at what this is doing. List offset and start index. Say if the index is greater than the scroll index, then we are scrolling down. So the list offset is the list index And the start index is the scroll index plus the list size. Scrolling down. If we are scrolling up, then the list offset is the new top index. The start index is the scroll index plus the amount that we are scrolling. So we use those two, to figure out what are the elements that need to be populated and what index they are actually at. So the start index is going to be the new, right? Isn't that right? I don't see that being set here. The new, I guess we set it here. Set index sets it to the scroll index, right? Yeah. We haven't gotten to that yet, I see. I would think, oh, that's scroll index plus the amount. I would think that would be, I guess not. Okay. Oh, right. This is the offset. Yeah. So these are the elements that actually change. That's right. So we only want to be updating the elements that change. So like in the example I was using, we'd only have to update one because all these other ones are now, they're the same. List index is now equal to the new top index. And then we tell it to relay things out since this could have possibly changed. I don't know why we do that here and not up here, like at the end. Not sure about that. Start index. Okay, yeah. Scroll to the scrolls to a specific index. Which is the scroll index minus the scroll index. The scroll index again is where we are currently at, the topmost item in the list. Can scroll down, just looking to see if there's actually like items that you can scroll further down into. And then same with like scroll up. Scroll up is really easy because it's just like, hey, if we're not at 0, then you can scroll up. Get size, that's how many elements are visible. Yeah, there's also page size, which is the same. I don't know what this was about. I guess it used to be where it could be lower. Like if that's what it looks like, is it was for a while at least saying like, hey, if there's only 5 items, then we would say there are only 5. I don't know what that's about. Get topmost index is the scroll index. Get bottommost index is the scroll index plus the list size, or either the count, whatever is the smallest between the two. So that's visible item that's being displayed. Is displayed. Checks to see if it's within the scroll index and the scroll index plus the list size. So if it's currently visible, item changed. This just says, hey, this item at this index changed, and then it like checks to see if it changed, if it is being displayed, and if it is, then it populates it invokes the onPopulate element. It's the item element for that index. Get item, this is a pointer. Given that, if it's displayed, This should be null pointer list index, list index. Yeah, this could be a negative. I mean, it checks here, but whenever we do this get item element, we're actually technically like, we know that it's visible. One thing we could do, I guess that could be better, is to say this is an element pointer. Element is get item element. Get the item, and then just here say if element is not equal to null pointer. So then we don't have to do that check twice. And we can even do that all in one line. This will be like, hey, if the element is valid, is not a null pointer, then it will do this. That works too. Get item index, list index. So what this does is given, oh, what does that do? Ah, yes. So what this does is, is that right? Hold up. What is the list index again? Index of the topmost element inside of the list. All right, because it's cycling around. That's right. That's the thing that makes this really tricky, this entire thing, is that whenever we are like moving these elements around, this is basically like a like I don't even know what it's called, cyclical list, I guess, or something, where it's like this might be the starting index. Like whenever we scroll up, this is now the starting index. So the list m underscore list index is going to be like 1 instead of 0. And so that's what this is for. But then we need to add the index, and so this is like, hey, let's say that we want the 4th item in the list. This is going to give us the actual index for that item for our list. And so yeah, if we have our list index of like 4, so we're like, hey, this is the 4th item in the list. What we need to do is figure out like, or sorry, the 4th item that's being displayed, then it's going to figure out what item is that actually in the list of items that we are, the list of like, not elements, but actual data that we are displaying. And so if we're scroll down a bunch, like if we're scroll down 20, and it's the 4th item that's currently visible, then that's going to be like 24 or something, or depending on the list index, it might actually be different. So yeah, we have to factor in this list index. That makes it a little trickier. So it's like move down 20, and then it's the list size minus the list index. If you scroll down like 1, then it's going to be like 9, but plus also the like 4 whatever. Yeah, it's a little complicated. And then we also have to do the module of all of that. Yeah. Set index just changes the scroll index whenever you scroll around. I should probably add a comment in here for this because this is actually a complicated enough function that given in a list index for the element list, get the corresponding index for the data. Corresponding index for the list of given an index for the element list, get the corresponding index for the list of data being displayed. I think that makes sense. We're getting close to being done with this. By the way, welcome anyone who has joined. Thanks for being interested in what I'm working on. What I'm working on is projectDIG, a 2D multiplayer automation survival sandbox game that I am developing here on Twitch and putting the VODs up onto YouTube. If you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask. We're developing this game engine in C++ using STL, BGFX, modern C++ with just like a few other libraries to help kind of kickstart the engine. There's some data on it. Like I said, you're welcome to ask any questions. Right now, what we're working on is a scroll list, or kind of like a paginated list of items that you can scroll through for our UI. And we're getting kind of close to being done with that, kind of. Okay, so page size is just how many elements we can display at one time. Don't really need to do anything with that. Can select index. I guess right now I just always say it's true. I think that's because right now I don't support like disabling items in a list or something. I don't remember. Get screen position. That's the actual like screen position for a specific element inside of the list. So we just figure out what is that item's what item are we referring to, and then displaying that. This could actually be a null value or like a null pointer, and so it could potentially like crash here. Same with all of these, honestly. All of those could possibly crash. Nice. Yeah, for now I'm okay with that, and honestly, yeah, I think I'm okay with that. Defnate asks, are you creating this using microprocesses, or are you compiling everything into one binary? Microprocesses. Everything's in one binary. I'm not like using, well, yeah, everything is being put into, yeah, everything's in one binary. I don't know why I would want, is that even a common thing in games? I know that whenever I use coherent UI in Asemium, which is like that UI solution that's built off of the Chromium WebKit, so it's HTML, JavaScript, CSS, that actually is running in separate processes. But besides that, I don't know of any other games that typically would have like other processes running alongside the main game. But yeah, for this right now we're just doing one binary, and we'll be trying to do multi-threading as much as possible moving forward. But in my job, we only use microprocesses. Gotcha. Yeah, that's not really too big of a thing in games that I know of. I mean, maybe some games will do that. Like, maybe sometimes games will use other processes, like, maybe the UAC would be UAC, is that right? The the DRM, I forget what it's. I think it's UAC. That's a Windows thing, right? Sometimes you'll have a debug output process. Oh yeah, that's true. MMOs would use that for handling WebSockets or UDP connections. But then we'll ever make it. Yeah, so it's like typically in release you won't see other processes. Maybe there might be something on the side, yeah, like watching to see if the game crashes. Maybe that's probably the debug thing, but maybe yeah, it could be like your crash handler. So it's like if the game crashes, it's just watching to see if the game crashes, and then if it does, it can like try to report it or something. But yeah, oftentimes everything is running inside of a single executable. Yeah, server I can definitely see, but that wouldn't be running on client end. Yeah, server is absolutely like if they are, like a server would probably want to have a bunch of microprocesses where it's like, hey, here's this cluster that's running on a single, computer or something like that, and they can communicate and they could, maybe be moved to other computers if they need to or whatever. So all of these functions, really all it's doing, like the get screen position, get cursor anchor, get confirm, action 1, that's just like redirecting the that into the corresponding item element. And so we don't really need to do anything with that stuff. It's really simple. Let's fix this list index. So those are for controller, like confirm is if you press like A, and action 1 is if you press like X or whatever. And so then that gets hooked up to if we go over into here, you'll see there's an event on action 1, and so we could hook that up. And so it's like, hey, when you're hovering over this item in this list and you press action 1, then invoke this thing, which might say like, hey, let's craft it or whatever. Let's disassemble it, whatever, something. You can hook it up to whatever you want it to do. Select. I don't remember what that is exactly. I think that's whenever you actually select it, but I thought that would be what's confirm is. That is again another action or controller input. Select. So this is scrolling by some amount. Seems like it scrolls to that item. I think, oh, okay, selecting is where you actually scroll to it. And so we're trying to scroll to the item. We scroll to it, and then we do this list index, and we select it. This actually would sometimes crash here. So there's like a bug somehow. I don't know exactly what's up with it. I think it might be that we sometimes try to scroll to an invalid index because like it got changed. So I just need to make sure that whenever select is called that our index is like valid, and yeah. I don't know exactly how that gets into a broken state. I think it's like the outside data is bad, and like maybe the list somehow gets cleared while you have something selected, and so then suddenly there's no more items to select, and so it becomes invalid. I don't know, something like that. Deselect is just like it deselects the item. So that's where like maybe whenever an item becomes selected, we might want to highlight it and change the styling. And I think that's what that does. I think here, yeah, it highlights it. So it's kind of the equivalent of like hovering over it. It shows the tooltip. Yeah, we highlight it. We say on like that it got selected, and then we show the tooltip. And so like maybe whenever it gets selected, we want to like do certain things with it. Change the styling. That would probably be done through the highlighting, and then deselecting is whenever it gets unhighlighted. Update. This is now a pixel vector, and this needs to change to mouse position. This needs to change to frame time. Let's also change this one. This is now a SDL event. So we let the element group handle the event first. If it returned true, then this returns true. Otherwise, if the area contains the mouse event and we did a mouse wheel scroll, then we handled that. And then we also handle some various keys, like if you pressed page up, page down, home, or end, then we scroll different amounts. So that's actually not too hard to do now that we have our UI. Oh, whoops, not that. Our edit label. I guess I don't have edit open anymore. Edit label. Page down. Home. Okay, we'll go to that. Okay, so let's first get that you pressed a key. There we go. So this is if you pressed a key. Then we'll handle these different events, such as here, home. And end. And then this would be page down. Page down, beautiful. Page up, nice. And then let's do the mouse scroll wheel thing. Here we go. So here, oh yeah, I have a scroll timer as well. If it is expired, it's not expired. Update. If it's not expired, update. Why not just not expired, then update it? Okay, let me go to this now. If it's expired, then return false. Yeah, so that actually already does what we want. The only thing I want to do is say should restart is false. This should restart here. The scroll speed. Oh, I guess we can reset it there. Sure. Okay, so that's just like limiting how much we can scroll, because whenever you scroll, like it might be that it scrolls way too fast if you scroll up or down. So we want to kind of limit how much it scrolls, like maybe once every like 4 frames it scrolls up. So that way if you're like scrolling, if you scroll, yeah, it's just like to kind of limit it, because it's probably going to be way more powerful than we actually want. Anyways, so then we need to get the actual scrolling. Here we go. This is the mouse wheel.y. I think this is like the exact same. The difference is that we don't need to do that. Scroll. That's the delta. We reset it and we return true. Perfect. Nice. That's it. We are done with our scroll list. Just kidding. Right. It's a size T. Index. I mean, really, this could be a size T. I could see that. Size T. The count minus the list size is never going to be a negative number, right? The count. Oh wait, it could be, right? Yeah, this could definitely be a negative number. Oh wait, no. Yeah, if count is like 4 and we can display that scroll amount, scroll index would be 0. Wait. Oh, I see. Yeah, this would become a negative number and then we would pick 0. Right? Is that right? This seems a little weird. Yeah, I guess, yeah. This would be set to 0 because we can't actually scroll. Yeah, if count is greater than the list size, then we can't scroll, period. And that's why this needs to be an int 32. Really it's just this needs to be an int 32. But yeah, so I think what we need to do here is say static cast int 32t. Or maybe, yeah, because count is also I wonder, whoops. Maybe I should have just here if count is greater than or equal to the list size. Or really it just is if it's greater than the list size. We don't even need, well, if it's even equal to, then we can just return because we're going to return at that point anyways. So we can't scroll if the count is, oh sorry, if it's less than or equal to the list size. And then that way we won't ever have to worry about this becoming a negative number. So then we can say this is a size T. Calculate the absolute value. What does this return? An int? Yeah. Okay, so we just need to go through here. All right. I is a size T, so I have to static cast it to a UN. Oh wait. Yeah, UN32T. Oh, it's... so annoying. I wonder if I should just always be doing that. Like if onPopulate element should actually be returning a size T. Maybe that's what I should be doing. I mean, not returning, invoking. Or yeah, being invoked with. That might be better. Kind of makes sense. Okay. This is always fun. Scroll index. Index of. So like, why is this not a size T? I feel like it should be. Let's see. So maybe this should also be a size T. These are list entries, so it kind of makes sense that they are size T. Size T to int 32. I see, because we want to go negative. And amount definitely needs to be in 32T because it can go negative. And so here index is a size T. And this can be a negative number overall, right? So we need to cast it to int32 before, so that way we can make sure that that could possibly go negative. Lots of fun. Size T, amount is at int32. So this could technically be a size T, and so could this. Ah, reset. I see. Yeah, this needs to be just a null pointer. Okay, since I changed that stuff, let's just trying to clean this up. In Crea, I had so many warnings like this. I'm trying to avoid doing that again. List offset. So this, I believe, should be a size T as well as this. Okay, we still have that issue. Set index, perhaps. Set index should be taking a size T. I think so. Size T is like for a list. Like anytime you're indexing into something, it's size T. Or if you get like the size of a list, it's a size T. So whenever I'm storing indices, I really should be using a size T. Scroll to... So that's a size T and int32, and it's unhappy about this because it's trying to make this be a negative number. So I guess I have to static cast this to an int32T. This should be returning a size T. Honestly, like, I think all of that should be size T. The top index, bottom index. Scroll to, those are okay. Get item, that probably should be a size T. List index, that probably should be a size T. Like, all of those, I believe, should be size T. Which is going to mess with that stuff. Probably mess with some other things as well. Get item index. Wouldn't that also be returning? size T, page size. That should be a size T as well. Okay, let's see how much that fixed and how much it broke. Okay, seems like it helped more. That's good. Size T to N32. Page down scrolls the entire amount. Let's do static cast and 32T. And it seems like I'm doing that here as well. Static cast and 32T. Almost done cleaning that all up. Count could probably be a size T. It probably should, honestly. This could be a size T. Alright, it needs to be a size T. Page size. Oh, yeah. That's a good point. That element dot H. I don't see it in here. Page size. This is now a size T. Scroll 2. What's scroll 2? Shouldn't that should be a size T. As well. And honestly, probably should these be? Like, this is all indices pointing to stuff. Like, yeah, so I think it makes sense to try to make most of this be size T stuff. The only time that it can't be a size T is whenever we're scrolling, because that can be a negative number. Like, if we want to scroll up, it's negative. So how do I solve this? This is like the same issue, which is I'm trying to cast this into as an N32, but it doesn't like that. But I need to, because this can be a negative number, right? I guess it's like if the index is less than the scroll index. Wait, no, that's possible. Oh, that's okay. Like, this should be able to become a negative number. Maybe it's that I need to be changing this into a... Maybe that's my problem, is that it's like, this is the thing. Let's see, I want to test something out here. Need to cast the whole line. Yeah, That's what I was starting to think. Does it have to be both? Like, that's what I was going to play with, is like, does it need to be both elements? I mean, both values? Looks like the answer is yes, that they both need to be cast to us in 32. And it's the same with this. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's what I was starting to think. Cool. Okay, we got rid of all of those warnings. Excellent, excellent. So now what we can do is try actually playing with the scroll list. Sounds like fun. I guess we can add in these two. Scroll speed. What are these in here? Scroll speed is 30 and scroll amount is 1. We just need to go into here. They are UN32, so we should handle it like this. So this is scroll amount is 1 and scroll speed was 30. That's milliseconds. And so what I was going to do here is so wait, this is a panel. This is going inside of sections 1, which is a content. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do for now is comment out this stuff. And kind of like what I did here, I want to just say section pointer content is equal to this and put the content in there. So then I don't have to say sections 1, I can just say content. And then what we're going to want to do is, let's see, we need to like associate it. Associate a new, it's not going to be a panel, it's a scroll list. ID is the scroll. Let's just call it item list, whatever. And it's hashed. The size and the padding. The size. I think I'm just going to let it figure out whatever it should be. I don't know. Oh, this is right. This is really complicated. I kind of forgot about that. I guess I should add this in. Yeah, this is actually quite complicated. Oh, whoops. So yeah, we pass in the scroll list. The challenge is that, and then later on, associate. Oops. Oh yeah, it doesn't know, that's right. We don't have scroll lists set in here yet. Later on, we then need to add the scroll list. And it will, alignment would just be, I would say, like just top, I guess. Top left, whatever. That's it, right? No padding. Yeah, this is tricky because we have We have to also, like, I think I need to expose this or something because we need to have access to the unpopulate element and on index changed. So that way we can actually handle those. Yeah, I don't know if I want to do this for sure, like in the long run, but for now we can just do this. Make it so that they're public. Go to here, and then what we're going to need to do is set them up. I want to just make it super simple. So just let's have this be like a list of strings. And then we can add those in. Yeah. Oh, I just realized on activate it's kind of wrong. That should be underscored. That's the case for all of those, huh? This is, I think, so edit label is the most complicated UI element internally, and the scroll list is the most complicated element externally, like how you are using it. Because we have like all these different functions to help like populate it, and yeah, like unpopulate item. Okay. Anyways, let's see here. I'm looking for is self.item list equal. There we go. So here's our scroll list size. We could say like for I or size ti equals 0, I is less than, I don't know, we could just say 8. Let's say we want to display, yeah, whatever, 7 at a time or something. And then what we'll just do is make it so each one is a panel. We could do that. So then, and we kind of would do something like that here with the panel. We could say this is our panel pointer, panel equals a new panel, call it a list item. And then what we want to do is associate it. So we could actually do that all in one line, right? Say scroll list associate that, and it gives us the panel that we are creating there. And then we don't want padding. Oh, whoops. Maybe we do want to have it be a fixed size. Could see that. Like pixel vector. What's the width? It's 200. I don't know what it should be exactly. Let's say 80 and 24. What's wrong with that? That should be working. And then let's just put a label in here and that's it. Panel, add new label. Call it name. And then the text is just going to be empty string for now. We'll populate it later. We could put in here maybe just like the number. So like 2, what was it? Int 2. No, that's not right. What was that again? I got the it was a good try. String to integer, but then there's like the integer to string. So is it just ITOS? ITOS. No. I think string just oh, that's right. I just remembered. We have, it's just std2 string, and then you pass in the number I, and it'll convert it into a string for us. And I think that's it. Oh, and then we need to actually say scroll list, add panel, and it needs to be add relative. The alignment, I forget how this is actually supposed to be set up. Let's see here. So we have the item group, go all the way down, add relative, top left, relative alignment is bottom left. Top left, and then the padding is not set, so we'll just say padding 0 or is nothing, and then the relative alignment is the bottom left. So that way, if we don't have, if there are no items, which means that this is I0, then we're going to align it to the top left. Otherwise, if we have any items in our list, then we want to align it to the bottom left. ITOA, TOA, gotcha. Is it always this cold in San Fran? Yeah, San Francisco is typically cold. It's just because it's on the bay, like it's right on the ocean front, and so there's a lot of fog coming in. It lifts up later in the day, but yeah, cold. And I'm gonna text you later, by the way, about tomorrow. Hey, Stray Cat, what's up? All right, so that should be it for setting that stuff up, but we do need to add in for a scroll list some like just a lambda or something here. Scroll list on populate element, listen, and then what we'll do, I don't know if we need to pass anything in here. That needs to be an element. Oh yeah, we should probably pass in, I don't know, actually we might just make something static to start with. Alright, have a good one, Kyle. Catch you later. See you tomorrow. And this also takes a size t, which is the index. And then it needs to return a bool. And so this is where I don't think we need to take anything here. Oh, we do need to return true. And this is the element that we are populating. So this is going to be one of the panels that we're getting passed because we're adding the panel to our scroll list. Okay, so cool, good. Let's make a list here. We're just gonna do something up here for now. Let's just make it a list of Unicode. So it's an array. Let's say it has like, I don't know, 12 items in it or something. And so we'll just make a list of items. Whatever. Alright, I need to make sure that there's actually 12. That should do. Incomplete type. Oh, I don't have include array. Right. Okay. So now that we did that, what I need to do is get the name, get the label, and then yeah. So I guess I need to cast this to, or do a reinterpret cast. I mean, technically this is a panel, right? Reinterpret cast panel pointer of this element. And then let's see here. Now that we did that, I need to look at how to get an element by the name again. Get element. There we go. And I need to reinterpret that as well. Whoops. UI manager. So this will be a label. We'll do reinterpret cast, label, pointer, element, get. So we should probably check to make sure we have this, but I know I do, so it's okay. Get element. Oh, oops, this is panel, my bad. Panel, get element by the name, which is name, HS. And then here we can label set text equal to s items index. I think that's right. I think that's right. So this is just setting up everything so we can actually scroll through this. List index changed. I don't remember what I need to do with that. Cannot convert from element pointer. Oh, that's right. I have to do is reinterpret cast here. Kind of annoying. I wonder if I can make it be like associate T and whatever it takes, that's the type it returns. That would be kind of nice. Should I just be doing from base to derived requires? Is it better to be doing a static cast here rather than a reinterpret cast? Wait, hold up. Base to derived dynamic cast. The Cantor will return a null pointer. Yeah. Yeah, okay, this is what I thought it was all doing. Yeah, like, dynamic cast is the safe way. Reinterpret cast is not the safe way. Basically, it's like, just like say, hey, treat this thing as this other thing. Like, it's kind of like the C equivalent of just like, you know, wrapping it like this. Yeah, so we could do a dynamic cast. It kind of doesn't really matter. Like, this could return I mean, I know that this is what it is. The nice thing about like reinterpret cast, I believe, is that it's during compile time, whereas static and also static cast, but dynamic cast is at runtime. I believe so. But yeah, dynamic cast is technically the safe way to do it. Because then if it fails, it returns a null pointer rather than just like some invalid thing. So then you can actually check to make sure that it was set properly. Yeah, it's something that I didn't really use much during Crea's development because I always just use smart pointers for everything. And so I had to do like, sometimes I had to do a conversion, but it would be going through like boost like shared pointer to like a cast with the shared pointers instead. Oh, that's wrong. Looks like that's the only thing that's wrong. Okay, so if we got this right, oh, you know what? I totally forgot that there's, well, we can use the scroll wheel. We don't have, but typically there's also like I'll show you here. We add in this like scroll up button. It's an image that you can click on. It'll activate the scrolling and either scroll -1, which moves up, or 1 that moves down. Yeah, I think that fixed the only issue we had. Yeah. We're going to keep streaming for a bit longer, but I just wanted to make a mention again that I am going to be gone the next 2 days. So I'll be taking this weekend off. I should be back Monday morning at the usual time, but I will be gone this weekend. Hey, look, here we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It looks like we can't right now scroll. That doesn't seem to be working. Oh, it did populate it properly. Right? Oh no, maybe not. We set that here. No, it did not populate it. It's not calling this function at all. I don't know if this is being called. Let's go into our scroll list. Let's see if this is getting hit at all. It is. Oh, the count wasn't ever set. I forgot to set the count. Whoops, that's my bad. So set count needs to be set. And here I need to say that the scroll, I think it can happen afterwards. Scroll list set count is equal to items size. Whoops. Should be calling that function. Oh, 12. Okay, it looks like it's trying to scroll now. Hey, it called that. Cool. Layout element. Wait, what happened? So that's a null pointer. The relative element is hidden? No way. It tries to relay out the element here. But wait, how would it even... Hold up. Wait, what's happening here? So it says, let's relay out this element. What is this? That is the scroll list. So then it's trying to relay out all of the elements, which are the panels. And then it's trying to relay out the element. The element is a panel. Because if it has a relative element, then let's set the, we store the relative element. Oh, whoops. I think I meant to pass in this element, the relative element here, like that. That's my bad. Yeah. Oh, that's actually needs to be fixed. Okay. I see what happened. So this needs to be relative element. So I was trying to use the relative element for this, the element group that I was calling it, not the element that's being the relative element of this element. Just the wrong relative element. Hey, see? It's kind of working. Except for it seems like we're being able to scroll through the entire thing. So it's kind of working. It seems like it's getting reset to the bottom though. Like here, we shouldn't be able to scroll down anymore, but when we do, we hit the bottom. So it's just looping around. If I scroll up, I can scroll down all the way to the bottom. So this is almost perfect. And 5 and 6 don't get updated properly. What's the other, like, how is it that item was on populate? We set it up here. Oh, we call changed. I see. That's what we do. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so that will fix that. So if we say that here we want to call it changed, then that will cause them all to be populated from the get-go. They'll actually say like test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, so on. Yep. Yeah, scrolling is a little weird right now. That works. Paging up is not working. Okay, let's try to fix these issues here. But we have it mostly working, which is awesome. Page up. So it says to scroll up by -7. So scroll index is 5 plus the amount. So that's going to be -2. And that's... So this should be -2, which then gets capped to 0. That is wrong. The minimum value between 12 and 7. Size T. Oh, wait. I think it's because... That's because this is an N32. This is wrong. This needs to be an N32T. Yeah, because this can be a negative number, right? Right? If the amount... Oh, I see. So we also have that to deal with. But this is valid. That's still valid. Yeah. We need to change that. The index can end up being a size T, but this needs to be in 32 because it can go negative. That, or I guess another possibility is I just say like, hey, if the amount is less than... No, yeah, let's just do it like that. Let's see if this compiles. This might complain now. It probably is going to complain. I think I need to cast probably like most of this to an int32. I think at least this. But maybe even also the scroll index. Yeah. Okay, so that should fix that issue, and then we have the issue. Oh, that's new. Yeah, this is probably because it's trying to scroll. So I'm scrolling. I thought I was scrolling down. Symbol event. The delta was... Oh, the delta's -1. I see. I thought I was scrolling down. -1. Scroll index was... Oh. Scroll index is getting to be a very large number. That is the problem. Somewhere we are setting scroll index, and it is being cast from a negative number to a very large number. That is not good. I wonder if it's actually happening right up here. probably is. Not sure how exactly, but let's what we'll do is we'll break. Oh, blurry. Okay, so we'll scroll. Oh wait. What's going on there? That's not right. 7, 8. Okay, I think at this point, I think the scrolling is backwards. I think that's part of my problem. I believe it's at this point when I try to scroll again, it's going to crash. So, oh wait, that's 1 now. Okay, maybe not. Oh. Let me find out, when is it that it's... Okay, hold up. So is it after 2 scrolls here? 1, 2, yes. Okay, so we'll scroll once, and then we'll put a breakpoint in here. It's definitely being weird about this, because this should be... Well, it actually just shouldn't let us scroll at all. So it might be that we already have scroll index is like some stupid large number, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, we just shouldn't be able to scroll whatsoever. So this is already messed up. So we're scrolling, we try to scroll 12, 7. So let's look at what's happening here. So this is 0. I see what's happening. So that's -1. So it's this size T. This is becoming too large. But why is it that... I think it's because it's casting this negative number into... Yeah, that must be it. So it's casting whatever is coming from here into a size T, and that's screwing things up. So probably what would be best is if I did this. Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. This is kind of silly. This can't be the best way to do this. Like, what? That is such a mess. Is it really the best way? I might not need that and that, because now they are in 32s. Hey, BRBL, thank you for the sub. Welcome to the siege. New sub, I appreciate it. Welcome to the channel. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so let's try that now. So if I scroll up, amount should be, oh, that's right, it's wrong. I screwed up. I need to scroll down. And then, since I scrolled once, we have to do it again. Okay, here we go. So now what is this? This should be 0. Yes, perfect. And then it returns. Good. Good, 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 good. So now it won't let us scroll up anymore, and we can scroll down. Oh, yes. There we go. Let's make sure that our paging is working. Nice. Wait, that looks... Oh, yeah, that's right. I need to fix the scroll wheel. The scroll wheel is actually wrong. This needs to be inverted. Oh yeah, that feels good. So we need like some scroll wheel here. I mean, like a scroll handle. I don't know what it's called. This little thing here that allows you to scroll. That would be nice. I'm not gonna worry about that right now. I think that's probably gonna be something that I add in whenever I'm actually starting to work on the real UI, because I don't know what the UI is going to look like in the game, and yeah, I don't know. Or whenever I actually need it, I'm going to delay that. Like, it's not necessary right now. But like that looks good. So we can now actually scroll. So this is like displaying information. Right now it's just strings, but we could easily have it so it's displaying a button that you can click and have it be associated with whatever the item index is. And so yeah, do all that fun stuff. So yeah, the scroll list is definitely something that will be cleaned up in the future. Another thing that I would like to do with it is to like have that interface be associated with the actual items more directly. We'll figure that out as we're working on it. I mean, like, as we're actually using it for the game. For now, though, it looks good. We could easily, if we wanted to, go in to here and just make it so that our label has, whenever we add it, not that, this. When we add it, we could say alignment is, let's say, on the left. Oh, whoops. Alignment is on the left. So it's centered. And then we could say that the padding should be, yeah, there we go. Padding can be top, right, bottom, let's say 10. And so it'll be nicely centered and off 10 from the left side. Nice, just like that. So beautiful. I love it. Looks great. So yeah, like that's one thing that I love about this. So like I could easily change it so it's like 10, 0, and let's make it be right aligned. And now it's going to be on the other side. Yeah. The UI system is pretty good. Which is why I wanted to pull it over. Mind that. Excellent. Looks great. Yeah, I'm tempted to say that the UI, oh, that's right. I take it back. I'm tempted to say nothing. You won't get it out of me. No. I was going to say I'm tempted to say that the UI system is done for now. But I do kind of want to add in the texture support. Scroll added UI scroll list. Yeah, I do. I think I don't know. I guess that's something I could delay as well. Is not rendering to a texture until later. I wonder if BGFX has any examples for that. Let's just take a peek. Deferred. No, it wouldn't be deferred. Debug draw wireframe. GPU driven rendering. Bloom. I wonder if Bloom has anything for that. That create vertex buffer. Texture chain. What is that? So it creates a frame buffer. Yeah. Create texture 2D. I see. So these are the texture handles. So this does kind of do what I want. This is complicated though. Dang. Maybe what I should look for is just like anywhere that it's just doing this create 2D texture. Oh, what's this? This is for their UI. Texture, m_texture, destroy. What's that th used for? Texture.s. Yes. I mean, that's kind of what I want to do. Texture, but where is it being used at besides that? Where's it being drawn to? That's the one thing I don't get. Or is this what's being drawing to it? Ah. I'm not sure. Basically what the idea here that I'm thinking of is that I'd like to be able to have it so that whenever we render our UI and I can just like run Crea and we can look at it. The majority of the time, like, you know, we're sitting here, there's like dozens and dozens of frames happening. You know, we're doing 60 frames a second. So like while I'm talking, just that sentence was like, you know, a few hundred frames worth of, several hundred frames worth of rendering. So it's not changing very often. You know, you stop and you think for a moment, like maybe I want whatever the player's wanting to do. We're not changing the UI. And so what we could do is render, like since the UI is not changing, we could render that to a texture and just be rendering the texture. And so instead of having it doing like a few, well, I don't know how many draw calls it's doing right now. It's probably not that many because it's batching things pretty well. And it might even be the case that we don't need to worry about this, which is a good argument that maybe I should delay this until we actually see it is a problem. But the idea is that we could, instead of doing, you know, like a dozen or a few dozen draw calls and having to recalculate all of this stuff, like, you know, all of the vertices. Well, we're actually not even having to do that. I'm doing multiple, like, caching, so it doesn't have to recalculate everything. But, like, it's still having to do a good amount of work every single time it's drawing. Instead of doing all that, we could just render it to a texture, and then whenever something gets invalidated, which we already have support for, is dirtied, and then it just redraws to the texture. And so instead of, you know, for the like few hundred frames, you know, while I've been talking, we have had now thousands of frames rendered of this UI. instead of doing all of that work to render a single frame, we could just render the texture, single draw call. And so we're just like kind of storing it, you know, in our in some texture buffer. And so if you like highlight, if these changes, that will invalidate it and has to be redrawn. And then also there's this concept of an immediate drawing where it draws on top of the texture. So it's like, hey, this thing is changing often, so we need to be drawing it regularly, you know, every single frame. And so stuff like this, since it's animated, we don't want, if we're invalidating the texture every single frame, then we're not gaining anything. We're actually wasting stuff because now we're like doing this redirection of let's render to your texture and then render the texture. And so that's why we just make like part of the UI bar be draw immediate, and then like the background of the bar is not immediate and everything else is not immediate, and so it's, you know, fast. A cooler and TR Dark Slayer. To answer your question, which is what shortcut do you use to quickly search a file in your project? That is through Visual Assist, and it's Shift Alt O. I don't know if Visual Studio has that built in, but yeah, it's Alt Shift O to open up a file, and so it's like UI Manager or whatever, or scheduler. And then use the arrow keys to find it. Yeah, it's pretty useful. Same with like, I should use this more often. This is really useful too. If I want to go to like scheduler, whatever, like add, then I can open that up. Which is Shift Alt S to search for a symbol. Yeah, very useful. So anyways, that's the idea behind trying to render it to a texture buffer. The tree has the search it also. Oh yeah, you could go up here, it looks like. Oh, that's way slower. Rather than like this, you don't have to take your hands. Oh, you can search it with control semicolon. Ah, okay, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. So I think we should probably not do that for now, just so that way we because I don't know, it might be a pre-optimization, honestly, which and to be honest, we've already somewhat committed to doing it this way, but I think we'll delay that for now. Dang, we've done a lot of stuff here. I don't actually have true Unicode support. That's something else that we need to look at. We have a good chunk of our UI, which was way down here, already done now. So that's cool. So I was thinking, so yeah, I would say that we're like kind of done with the UI. There are definitely things that we could do to work with it. But yeah, for now, I think I'm happy to say let's just move on. We've been working on it for like 10 days or something, so it's been a while. Maybe even more. I think it's almost like 2 weeks. It's been a long time. We've spent like not a majority, but a vast amount of projectDIG development on UI stuff. So yeah, let's move on. Yeah, so we'll kind of just look at what we could possibly start on. I won't start today. We'll kind of just look at stuff today, and then since I'm taking the weekend off, I don't want to get started on something and then yeah, have to come back on Monday and pick up. Um, do you do any UML for planning or just go with the flow? I don't do any UML. Most of the time, like I think that UML typically is useful for if you're doing like more complex um, systems that are like super interconnected. But what we're trying to do with this game engine is make it so that things aren't connected. So you don't really have to worry about like, oh, this system is doing this thing over here that might be connected to this other thing. Like sometimes that's necessary, but I the more I develop the more experienced I am, the more I think that we as developers just add that complexity in unnecessarily, and that oftentimes you can kind of avoid that. Um, and I'm trying to move away from doing that. And so what we're doing, like with the whole engine, is that, the entity is just an ID. So we're using ECS. The entity is just an ID. The components are just pure data. And the systems are stateless with functions that are just providing logic to run on our components. And all of the systems are completely standalone. They do not communicate with each other. The only places that like there's actual like communication between the systems is that we have these world components, which is kind of like a more global it's not quite global, but kind of like a global component. It's associated with the world, and each world has its own world component, and a world is kind of like a map or something like that. Um, and then our systems, such as like physics. So like here's our physics movement system. Whenever it gets scheduled, which is really just like right now, it's kind of indicating to the schedule like, hey, this is what I want to read or write, these types of components. And so then we can see like what type of access it's using for the components. Like, do we need a block on the transform component because it's writing? If it's only reading, then that means that we could allow multiple readers. So that's whenever we do multi-threading. Like, let's say that we wanted to split up our entity manifolds, we could. Or if we had something else that was working with the transform component, then it could run in parallel with this entity manifold because they're both reading or whatever, something like that. And here, this is actually using the physics manifold component, which is coming from the world. And so yeah, there's no actual communication between the systems, and these functions are completely stateless. They do have an effect on the world, and specifically the component, and it states exactly what it's changing. So like, we know, well, there's no actual guarantee right now that the update is only changing the things that it says it is up here. Maybe I could add in something in the future to support that. It would need a little bit more complexity to do so, because then suddenly the scheduler we'd have to be going through the scheduler. I don't know, something like that. I'm sure there's a way to be able to do that. But anyways, the whole point of all of this that I'm saying is that I don't think we really need to do any type of like UML diagrams because this stuff is so simple. I think the flow just makes sense with this system. It's honestly like it's beautiful. It's just like this was shown to me well through a series of like blogs and that Overwatch video, and then also T-Lock, who's a viewer, writing a similar game engine, and yeah, it's awesome. Hey, Chemtrain, what's up, man? How's it going? Good, nice, excellent. I need to study that. Yeah, the well, so you can go if you are interested. It's fairly long. If you want the verbose version of all of that, you can check out the VODs on YouTube where I implemented the ECS, and it took a while for me to figure it all out, but it came together nicely. And then also you can check out the Overwatch. Here we go. This video right here, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it's about the architecture of the Overwatch engine. And then, yeah, I also just searched around online for ECS stuff. But I would say those two are the best places to go. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It makes things so simple. Like, for Crea's engine, there's all these moving parts and everything. And, like, anything would have access to anything else. And, like, it was just hard to figure out what was happening at any point. And also, like, well, fortunately, Crea was at least a component-based system, so things were kind of broken out into like components, and so somewhat separated. Um, there wasn't that much like inheritance happening, where I feel like that's where you need more UML, where you're like, oh, this thing is responsible for this thing, and this thing's responsible for this other thing, and so on. Yeah, I fortunately am not doing that. I mean, we kind of have that still. Like, we do have this concept of like responsibilities within our classes, where like the scheduler is doing this one thing, or the world is doing another. And while I don't do any diagrams for that stuff, we talk about it here. We kind of do some research. We think about it before we dive in. But yeah, so it's kind of, I guess, in the middle. I feel like those diagrams, like, I don't know, maybe it's useful for other systems, or I don't know. Next, I will do that. Currently, I'm just kind of mindlessly implementing things with SFML, kind of losing oversight. Yeah, I know how that goes. Yeah, for sure. Speaking of which, we have been somewhat mindlessly adding UI stuff. Let's step back, look at what we will want to be jumping into on Monday, and kind of to see like what is the future of this project looking like, and then like near future. Um, yeah, so I think starting Monday, I'm going to start working on Crea. In the later part of the stream, I'll do like 4 hours of projectDIG, probably from 8 to 12, and then take a lunch break for like 20 minutes or something, and then come back and work on Crea for like 2 hours. And we'll see how that's going. We'll probably do that for a good week or two, and depending on the speed of that, I might need to kind of ramp it up. I'm also thinking I might start doing streams in the evenings for a while working on Crea, because Crea has a big sale coming for it on Steam. and I want to get this update out. Probably going to be the last update for Crea. Maybe. I'm hesitant to say it's the last ever, but it might be. We're kind of, finishing. I want to kind of wrap up Crea, and like right now I'm like I just want to work on projectDIG, but I know I need to do this Crea stuff. I committed to it, and like financially it makes sense to invest a little bit more time into it, to build up for this sale. And then yeah, but I'm still like I just want to work on projectDIG, so I'm thinking this might be the last update I'll do. But yeah, so we'll see how that goes. But while we are working on projectDIG, in the mornings, what should we kind of be working on? There's still a little bit more utility stuff that I can do for sure. There's still the physics system I've been avoiding. So there's like audio. I would say there's like a handful. Like, so there's audio. That would be a good one to work on. There's the profiler, which would be good. I think I'm just going to use Chrome tracing for that. That would probably only take a few days to do, or yeah, like 2 days or something. Fmod, I'm not completely sure how long that would take. I don't really know what world is going to be. I kind of have at least that started. I don't know how much more we need to do with that. Is Python language worth learning? I think Python's a great scripting language. Yeah, I say why not? It definitely has its uses. You can also use Lua. That works too. I think I prefer Python over Lua as a scripting language for just like general scripting, not for games though. Yeah. Okay, so let's see here. Let's kind of move things around. So audio, that could be up here. The profiler could be up here. Camera is like, I don't even, that's more of a game system, honestly. Kind of. I don't know. I guess not really. Yeah, there's still, I want to do string interning. That's really what I'm thinking about. Yeah, and I kind of want to switch over to a different hash map solution. I might do some research on that this weekend. It's only getting hotter for the job market. I prefer Python. Yeah, Python's great for a scripting language. It's just like, it's not great for games because you have to deal with the global interpreter lock and the overhead is ridiculous. It's just very slow. If you're like going between C++ and Python. I don't know how it is if you're just doing Python. Maybe it's fine. Probably depends on the game. By the way, guys, this projectDIG roadmap, as well as this page and this design page, which I actually went through and added in a lot of these like survival stuff. I kind of just was pulling stuff out from the projectDIG Google Doc that we worked on during pre-production. This is all available here at the dig.siegegames.com. So you guys are more than welcome to check it out. See kind of like what I'm thinking of for the design of the game, as well as like the kind of the project roadmap of what I'm working on. It's super rough right now. I'll probably, yeah, right now we're just kind of like going through engine stuff, working through it. But in the future, we will be cleaning it up. Animation. Animation is another one I'd like to work on before too long. Animation is going to be done through, and I'll add a comment here. I think so. Animation is going to be done through Spine 2D. Maybe I should do this. Spine 2D for animations. I do feel like I probably should support basic animated things as well. Like maybe I'll do a spine animation and a normal animation component. The difference being that like a spine is much more heavy-handed. So spine 2D is from here. This is spine 2D. It's really cool looking. You can do some like super sexy animations with it. Let's see if I think they retweet stuff here. Show me what you got. Yes. Let's see here. Dang, that's pretty cool. Yeah, like that's with spine. Just like you can just do such cool things with it. Like this is 2D and so they're like yeah, like look at that. Isn't that awesome? Fine animations. Hey, little Switch, what's up, man? Saw the advertisement for Crea on Philip DeFranco's YouTube. Yeah, that's pretty cool, huh? That's cool. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, you can just like do deformations and whatnot, like that one. Here we go. This one like is really cool, where you can see like, just like yeah, I don't know. You can do some really cool things with it. It's like all 2D, but like also this one right here, where he was like turning. But this is 2D. Yeah. Very cool. Or maybe I'll say most animations should support basic animated graphics. So this would just be like if you just want a number of frames, like kind of like what we did with. Oh, I have it hidden right now. Maybe I can. I think I should be able to just say. What is this again? The content. Oops. For loading. All right, animated image here. This is. Oh, whoops. That's not gonna work. There we go. Let's restart. Hey T-Lock, we're just talking about you. This Spine 2D bake the animations into sprites. It has that option, but you don't have to. Okay, there we go. There's our little animated. So we want something like that too, where it's just like it's taking a sprite sheet, and we just say, hey, draw this frame. Here's the text direct. This is like draw this frame for this amount of time, and then move on to this next frame and stuff like that. So that's like a really simple animated thing. Let's go back. So, hey, yes, good things. Yeah, we're just talking about how awesome the system, the ECS is with the systems that are stateless and everything. And how I moved in that direction thanks to you and the Overwatch video and some other sources as well. But yeah, so you have the option to do that, but they have like so yeah, there's these run times that you can use, and I think they talk about it in here. But like they don't want you to, so here we go. Here's the export formats. So you can do JSON or binary, and then you can also do like a GIF, JPEG, PNG if you want to have a sprite sheet. It can bake sprite sheets, but idea is to do it procedurally on the fly, right? Exactly, yeah, because it does. They say somewhere in here, I forget where. That's not it. I don't remember. Somewhere they talk about that, and they just say like, hey, you can say like this is how much space it takes. Benefits. Okay, I thought that they had an actual example somewhere. I think they do. It's probably in one of the demos or something. Yeah, so they have freeform deformation and previews and weights. Yeah, lots of stuff. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I think maybe in the example projects. Or not example projects. Oh, here it is. Yeah. So here's the spine, all animations, all frame rates, which is 0.2 MB. And then this is 18 times larger, and it's only at 30 frames. And then if you increase the speed... Oh, I see what it's saying. Why is it not doing it for both? Oh, 1 second of animation. I see. And this has all of it. Like, so this doesn't even cost extra to do those. Yeah, there they go. So that's the sprite sheet. And then they have all the data, and this is just the frames. Yeah. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So yeah, that's this. I can drop a link for this here. If you guys are interested in checking it out on your own. So yeah, we'll do that at some point before too long. There's lots of advantages. Another really cool thing about that is then you can easily swap out graphics. So you could be like, oh yeah, now use this image instead. and for like the body or your hat. So you could easily change graphics, swap them around, and all the animations are still good. So like it would make making like different types of characters or monsters so much easier. Like especially variations on them, because it's just like changing the skin some. Um, at T-Lock, I would like to um poke your brain at some point about string interning and the whole like string hash table stuff. Maybe sometime this in the next like week or whatever. Perhaps someone in chat might know how would they support something like an isometric top-down view where you could be looking at the character's back instead of their front. Still have to have a sprite sheet per view. I imagine so they have events, and so it would just be different animations, right? Um so like the sprite, I imagine this is how it'd be, is like, your sprite sheet would be a little bit larger where there'd be like for each angle, and you could probably even have it so that it transforms, so like there's one version of your back and maybe even one version of your front, and you could transform it so you could kind of get a range of motions, like the direction that you're moving into. I don't know if you could get that all into a single animation. I'm not experienced with spine. um yeah, they here, oh yeah, this is like one that they show where it's like lots of transform, which is really cool. Oh yeah, here's the skinning one. You're gonna need separate sprites for front and back, yeah. Look at that, he follows your mouse. That's pretty cool, huh? Yeah. Flipping is cool too. Yeah, it has such cool stuff. It's really impressive. It's pretty cool. Uh, yeah. So I think that's the direction that we're going to go for now. Another thing I need to start working on sooner than later, I think, is probably some multiplayer support as well. Like, I don't want to get too far into the game engine before I have some multiplayer stuff. Just like what I want to do is make sure that I have the basic like client and server set up nicely, so that way it's working. Check the one on the board. Oh yeah, yeah. I think I saw that one before. I didn't see it. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Yeah, this one is really cool where he like will jump and then bend his knees, and if you like rotate it, it'll actually like change his legs around. Woo! Oh, that's interesting. It flips around at that point. It's funny, his feet like curl in. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yep. Cool stuff. So yeah, I think for the future here, I think we'll also need to command line. I'll probably need to start working on that too. Yeah, I think that like all of that needs to happen a little bit earlier. Kind of like just get all of the basics for the engine set up. We're making good progress. Um, but what I would say is that, yeah, get the profiler set up, get audio set up so we can like play sounds, and then and music. Get kind of like finalize our string tables and interning, whatever you want to call it. Figure out the hash maps. I think I might use like Khash or Google Dense Maps or whatever, one of those. And then also do Unicode stuff, which hopefully won't take too much time. I already kind of have set it up, so like we should be able to hopefully transition over to like some Unicode string support here, like U32 string or whatever. And then we could do animations. And then honestly, I think I'd rather do it like this. Like physics, I really pushed physics back. But physics is kind of more game specific a little bit, not completely, but kind of. I feel like a lot of these things are just like more fundamental. So like we're not really getting a game done, but we're setting up the foundation so that way like once we have all this stuff running, then we can really hit the ground running. Like yeah, so do animations and then figure out the multiplayer stuff, just like what is that going to look like in this game engine. And then we can, yeah, and then lastly, well, like, not lastly, I was saying lastly because I think this is one of the last, like, really big engine systems that's, like, truly an engine. Like, physics and camera are kind of, and also, like, the tile map are a little bit more game specific. But yeah, figure out the scripting system, and then at that point, I think we'll have like all of the the fundamental engine figured out, and so we could start moving a little bit more into the gameplay stuff. And so that'll probably take us like another month or so to do. I don't think Profiler is going to take that long. It really shouldn't because we're going to be using this Chrome tracing thing. Fmod, I looked into it some. It doesn't look too bad. That honestly shouldn't take more than like 2 days. All of that stuff should probably just take like a day or so. Maybe 2 at most. Animations will probably take a few days. Multiplayer will definitely take a few days trying to figure it out. Same with scripting support. So yeah, probably like a month for that stuff or so. It is true that I'm only going to be working like 4 hours a day since I want to be working on Crea as well. But yeah, so that's what our next month is going to look like. Like I was saying earlier, I am going to be gone this weekend. I'm actually leaving here like soon. I'll be gone. I won't be streaming this weekend, but I will be back on Monday, and I don't think there are any interruptions for the next while, so I should be able to just like stream every single day, not miss any more days for a while. Yeah. Seems good. Seems good. I'm going to call it a stream here. since this is a good stopping point and I need to get going soon. Eat lunch and then hit the road. So if you guys aren't following already, you should definitely follow. I typically stream every single day, but I am gone this weekend. I'll be back Monday. You can see my schedule down below, which is 8 a.m. Pacific time. And you can check out the VODs on YouTube. Post a link to YouTube. I also am on Patreon, so if you want to support this channel and just what I'm doing, you can go to Patreon and pledge at a certain tier. You can get access to the game engine source code, so if you want to look at that, and it's MIT license, so you can use it for your own game. I mean, it's still like heavily under development right now, but you know, moving forward in the future, it's just getting better and better. Then you can get access to it that way. And yeah, so thank you guys for joining. I hope you all have a good weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. Take care, guys.